onto the caliper strip down. So while cleaning this, I noticed that one of the pistons was slightly seized. So nothing else for it. Got it off. Might as well rebuild it. I did the fronts last winter. I didn't do the rear one. Thought I'd save it till I'd done the swing on. Not too bad. There's nothing hard about a brake caliper rebuild, but if you're not confident, let someone else do it, because the last thing you want is, especially when you've got a bike as big and as fast as the Busa, you really don't want to you don't want to take any chances with your brakes. Okay, right, well. It's cleaner than I thought it was going to be. One piston. Piston number 2. Right, so we've got the caliper apart. Let's have a look, see what we're dealing with. So, the pistons themselves, obviously need a good clean up. Do that now actually while I'm here. So what you're doing is you're looking for any damage. So they're going to need a proper clean, but looks all right. It's much the same. Yeah, they're clean up fine. I'll do that off camera. Right. Don't think you're not going to be able to see in there, I don't think. You can see that. You might be able to see that the brake fluid that's in there. It's just black gunge. You can see this, yeah, that dust still. You're not going to see it, but it's definitely seen better days. It's all sort of 21. Oh, look. Yeah. This is the main seal, the lower of the two. Yeah. Oh, you can hear it. Yeah, this was overdue. Much the same on this side. Dust seals. Some better days. Oh. Apart from that though, apart from good cleanup, obviously the seals are toast. The interesting thing is the bleed nipples. Should be both the same, and somebody's fitted one in there. I threw it away actually. That's not the one. No, I've proper thrown it away. There was two different brake nipples, and one of them was a lot shorter than the other. And somebody in the past, obviously a brake nipple. Let me find. If we're going to be able to see in. We're not going to see in there. But basically, when the nipple goes in, that flat sits on a seat. And then when you unwind it, it creates a gap, and then that lets the fluid pass through the nipple. So when you wind it in, it sits tight on the seat and stops the fluid flow. Well, what somebody had done was fitted a bleed nipple that was far too short, which is it was obviously trying to, so it was leaking past the threads or something, but they really wound it in tight, so tight that it actually bent the nipple. They're really lucky they didn't shear it, because that's an emotional experience, getting out a drilled nipple. Right, so I'm going to go and work out what parts I need to go and buy, and you will join me for the reassembly. It's a bit corroded, so I'll clean all this up off camera, and you'll join me for the reassembly. Okay, so we cleaned up the caliper halves, cleaned up the pistons, cleaned up the bolts, cleaned up the torque link bolt, cleaned up the pad retaining cover, and I had to clean up these these springs. But the pins and R clip they're being replaced. They come as a kit, as the nipples and obviously the seals. So the first job is get the seals in. I'm using a little bit of red rubber grease here because the caliper is going to sit unused for a little while. Normally I just wet the seal in brake fluid, fresh clean brake fluid, but at the moment a little bit of red rubber grease. Nice thin coat all the way round, like so. No need to go too heavy with it, just give it a nice thin even coat. Make sure it's clean. And and then pop the main seal in the lower of the two grooves. Have a hair there. Don't want that. So when you put it in, make sure it goes in nice and even, doesn't twist. It should just pop straight in, and then just give it a little wipe round, like so. Lovely. Exactly the same thing now for the dust seal. Thin even coat all the way around. And pop that in the top groove. Again, this one's easier to twist, so make sure it goes in nice and even, like so. Lovely. Jobs are good. Okay, grab one of your pistons, and again, just a light smear, just on the part of the piston that's going to enter. And you want to try and get these in sort of fairly even, with a little twisting motion so the seals don't twist themselves. A little bit more rubber grease. These seals are quite tight, which obviously they have to be. And then just gently twist, keep rotating it. You'll feel it pop when it passes the seal, and when it does, just push it all the way in. That's it, push it all the way in. Okay, so we'll do the same for the other half. If this sounds weird, it's because the audio didn't record when I first done the video, so I'm having to do this as voiceover, man. So is that the same procedure on this side? If I've said it before, but if I was putting this caliper straight back on the bike, I would just wet this with new fluid. I'm still waiting for the new hoses and that to turn up, so it's going to sit there for a little while. Then the dust seal. Pop it in. Gentle twisting motion. Feel that pop, and then just push it in. So now, just to get rid of any excess grease and greasy fingerprints, a little bit of brake cleaner, just give it a wipe over. The extra grease won't do any damage, but it's obviously sitting there. You're going to have all sorts thrown up from the road, salt, dirt, and obviously brake pad dust, and it just sticks to the grease and turns it into a mess. So keep everything as clean as you can. Okay. So now we're going to join the two caliper halves together. So now we have the smaller of the seals. Again, a little smear of red rubber grease. Now on the caliper halves, you'll have two recesses. One's deeper than the other. So this one's the deeper one, that one's not. So put the seal in the deeper of the two, and it'll help it locate a lot nicer. putting a little bit of copper grease on just on the ends of the bolts. The ends of the bolts on this caliper are actually exposed, so don't go over the top. You don't need it. It's just a little bit of grease there just to facilitate easy removal if I take them apart again in the future. Just on the very ends. I'm much of the school of thought that you don't put grease on your brakes. Okay, so now we take the two halves. So make sure when you put it together, hold it in place, make sure that seal doesn't move. Okay. And put the two caliper half joining bolts in. You don't need to hang off the socket on these. And I'll final torque them when they're fitted to the bike. So just nip them up. Okay, so that's the two halves back together. Okay, so next put the pads in. Again, I don't personally grease the pins. I have them part fairly regular. And any grease there is just going to attract dirt and make more of a mess. And I generally don't clean the pins up too often either, because once they get a bit corroded and a bit pitted, they're only £3 or £4 to replace them. So the pin one in. The first pad spring in. The second one, making sure that the spring sits underneath the pin. Now put the second pin in. Again, if you want to grease those pins, you can. But I personally don't. So I just push the spring down a little bit just to allow the pin to pass through the pad, like so. And just push it into place, like so. Next, the clip. Make sure the holes are aligned. This clip just stops the pins from falling out. If you lose that pin, you could just use a couple of smaller pins. But this came in the kit. Okay. Might have to tweak it around a little bit if the holes aren't perfectly aligned. That's it. Pops into place nicely. So there we go. That's the pads in. So now for the cover. Make sure you get it around the right way. Those edges there, just protect the ends of the pins and stop the worst of the crap getting in. So just hook it over, pop it in place. Easy as that. Okay, so now for the bleed nipples. Again, you don't lubricate the nipples and you don't wind them in tight. If you've got the right nipple with the right thread on there, I can't remember off the top of my head, it's something like 9 newtons or 6 newtons or something. You don't need a lot. That's the first one in. That hole was a bit camouflaged. snip it up. Dust cap on. Okay. Right, I'm putting this this banjo and these two washers just in the hole at the moment. I'll have new ones arrive with the hoses when they turn up. So for now, this is literally just help keep the crap out of it. Again, when you put this on the bike, you don't need to hang off it. Use a torque wrench. When it hangs off, it goes way too tight. So this is the nut and bolt for the torque arm. Just going to put it in place so it doesn't get lost, and I'll fit that when I put the torque arm on. And finally, caliper mounting bolts. Again, I put a little bit of grease on there just to keep the thread lubed. Not too much. There we have it, one finished caliper. So when you fit that to the bike, and obviously when you bleed it all up, just go around it all, check for leaks. Because every now and again you'll get one that leaks. But there we have it, job done.